We're seeing freshmen play more and more in college football, and it's beginning to seem like there are more guys that are ready to come out of high school and play right away in college. Today, we're going to take a look at some of the most impressive freshmen that we've seen so far this year. First is going to be an obvious one. Dorian Moore had an opportunity at Oregon to step up and be a replacement for Evan Stewart. You lost Evan Stewart at the beginning of the year, and everybody kind of turned to the five-star freshman to see, hey, are you going to be able to be a deep threat for Dante Moore? And so far, Dakorien Moore, for the most part, has not disappointed. It's obvious that he's a freshman, and there are some things that Dan Lanning has already pointed out that he needs to do better. But so far, he's been a dynamic weapon. Only 5 catches, but he turned that into 95 yards. That's 19 yards per catch and 1 touchdown. They've also used him as a runner. 3 rushes for 42 yards and 1 score. Dakorien Moore has been very impressive so far, and they're kind of just keeping things vanilla. They haven't had to do a ton. They took care of business of both teams that they faced, and Moore has done his part to be efficient and explosive. We go to the defensive side of the ball. The defense doesn't get a ton of recognition, and it's really hard to play as a freshman on the defensive side of the ball. I think that's more challenging, but Graceson Littleton so far has looked really good. His first game of college football was against the Ohio State Buckeyes. He had to cover Jeremiah Smith. He had to cover Carnell Tate. The rest of those pass catchers, they largely kept Jeremiah Smith in a check, and he did not look good. Littleton had his opportunities to go against Smith directly, and overall, he's looked really good so far. San Jose State, not as good as Ohio State, but that is still a team with underrated pass catchers. I think they have a couple of good players, and I think Littleton looked really good in that game as well. He is set to have a really fun year opposite of Malik Muhammad. Texas needs him in a big way, and so far he has delivered. While Bryce Underwood's numbers may not jump out at you, this is a guy who looks really good, and it's not because he is shredding defenses. There are some things that we'll discuss here, but this is a kid who looks like he is prepared for the moment. The spotlight isn't too big for him. Yes, he is still making mistakes. However, he does not look rattled. He just looks like he has not played a ton of college football. He looks like he's making decisions that he has to just learn from. And it's not because he's overwhelmed, it's because he hasn't been in this system long enough. He also doesn't have pass catchers that are really helping him out. That is a big concern for Michigan right now. I think that Donovan McCulley has been solid, but overall there hasn't been a ton of options for him. So he has looked good. His numbers don't necessarily indicate that, but if you go and watch the film, this is a guy who's confident in the reads that he's making. Even if they're the wrong ones, he still looks like he's confident, or he just doesn't have time to throw. When you look at the Oklahoma game, there were a couple throws where if he had a little bit more time to throw, he has a guy wide open, and I would bet that he sees them. That is a big thing for him. He's looked really good. It's just that the numbers may not reflect what we're seeing. Malachi Toney has stepped into Miami's offense and been a go-to guy at times. The Notre Dame game looked really good for him. He was making the nickelback covering him look really bad. He's a good route runner. He's able to create separation, and Miami's offense appeared to be in good hands with him in it. Now, the pass catchers were a question coming into the year, but Malachi Toney and some of those other new faces have stepped up in a big way. Jaron-Keawe Sagapolutele has looked really good for Cal so far. And yes, it's a small sample size, but that is a position that we had questions about. I think most of us anticipated Devin Brown winning the starting spot, but it's the freshman that has taken over. And so far, he looks extremely confident. He's a lefty, so it looks a little bit different coming out of his hands, but he is someone that has looked really strong. And Cal's offense had a lot of questions coming into the year, and so far, he has answered a lot of those questions. He is going to be a fun player to watch. He has a big game against Minnesota this weekend. His ability to continue throwing accurately and also using his legs at times is going to be huge for this offense. And Cal is a team playing with a ton of confidence because of it. They've started out strong, and if he continues playing this way, this is going to be a surprise team in 2025. SMU's offense has been electric so far this year, and we've saw a number of explosive plays, including a big touchdown by Jaylen Cooper, their freshman, who has stepped up in a big way. Brett Lashley has done a great job of bringing in talent via the transfer portal. He's also done a good job of recruiting to bring in talent. Jaylen Cooper's a perfect example of that. He was brought in to compete for a spot, and so far he has stepped up in a big way. Now, it's helped that Romello Brinson has stepped up as well, but Jaylen Cooper is showing that teams need to be worried about him. You look at what he did against Baylor. The Baylor defense was not a fan of guarding him. And I think that as he grows and as he learns this system even more, he's going to be really fun to watch. He's a guy that has tremendous talent, a guy that can take the top off the defense, as if SMU didn't have enough of that. This is an offense that is going to be really tough to stop because they have so many options, and Jaylen Cooper is going to be a big part of that and going to be a big part of that for the next couple of years. Florida State is off to a great start, and while Ousmane Kromah hasn't put up the biggest numbers, his efficiency when running the football has shown us enough. If you go and watch the film on him, this is a guy who is tough to tackle. He runs with a purpose. He runs with the tenacity that most defenders do not bring as well, and that's helped him run over guys at Alabama. They've also used him a little bit as a pass catcher. 2 catches for 50 yards, 25 yards per catch, and 1 touchdown. So he is going to be a really big part of this offense. It's just going to come down to how many touches he's able to get. Right now, Florida State appears to have multiple options at the running back position, so it might be tough for him to see the field. That being said, he has good size at 6'1", 218 pounds, and he is someone that I think is going to be a big part of this offense for a while. And then finally, we have Penn State's Chaz Coleman. Finding a way to insert yourself into a defense that is absolutely stacked is not easy, and let alone for a freshman. And this is a guy who I think is ready to be a solid contributor for this team. Again, if you are ready to play, teams are going to play you, and Penn State is no different. So far, they have looked pretty good so far. It appears that they're kind of holding some things back and getting kind of ready to just ease through their first few games. And this defense, though, has looked disruptive. They have looked like they are dominating their competition. When they played FIU, when they played Nevada, they look very solid. And Chaz Coleman is a part of that. Now, how big of a part he will be remains to be seen, but this is a guy who is ready for his opportunity. He is ready to make plays, and he's ready to show that he can be a part of this for a while. Those are the freshmen that I want to talk about. There's so many more that we could talk about. There's a long list of freshmen that are off to pretty good starts. Let me know who I missed. Who do you think is having an impressive season as a freshman? Who is left off this list that should be on it or will be on it at the end of the year? We're going to take a look at the freshmen every so often just to see how things are going. Bryce Underwood obviously deserves a lot of that attention, Dakorien Moore, but there are a lot more names that could be on it as well. As always, if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.